Commuting in the rain? Well, it can be bullshit. So it was last summer that I made a video about commuting because I was new to it. I never used to commute and I'd started to during the summer, and I admit I was completely converted. For someone who hadn't commuted to then turn into someone who was commuting almost every day, yes, I was completely converted and completely convinced that it was 100% for me. But that was the summer when if it rained a little bit and you might have been riding to work and the ground would be wet. Unlike now, you know, 6-7 months later, middle of winter, where it's pissing down. So I'm commuting today, but am I commuting regularly through the winter? Well, yes. When I'm not giving people lifts to bus stops, etc, etc, if it's just me heading out first thing in the morning, then yes, I typically will still take the bike. We had a little bit of really bad wind probably a month ago, you know, where we had like a 25-mile-an-hour wind and a 50-mile-an-hour gust, and with wind like that, especially being on a little 125 where you're a lot lighter, I will typically not take the bike. I don't want to be messing with a 50-mile-an-hour wind when I'm just trying to get to work. But other than that, yes, I'm out, I'm commuting. I'm still not a lover of biking in the rain, but hey, you know, I get to take my therapist to work with me, and then I get to ride home as well, so it's a win. So is there much difference between commuting during the summer and commuting in winter? Visibility clearly isn't as good. Well, I was going to say, apart from the obvious, you know, you've got obviously better weather in the summer. Not fantastic, this is still England after all, but yes, typically you've got better weather obviously in the summer, whereas in the winter you've got this miserable nonsense that we've got going on right now. Let's see if we can stay in this guy's mirror. But other than the obvious differences, is there anything that I do differently? Is there anything that I've found myself doing differently on a winter commute? Because for me, none of this was planned. I didn't decide, let's start commuting and this is what we're going to do. Well, I have found actually that these little sleeves that I bought that work wonders for stopping wind going up the sleeves of your jacket, whilst they do work wonders when they're bunched up on my wrist there, and they do stop the wind from going up the sleeves of your jacket. During the winter I found it's just too cold. I typically wear short sleeves at work, and riding into work with just the Textile jacket over the top, it's not enough protection for my arms. My arms are just getting too cold on the ride. I've tried extending these. I've tried extending my sleeves and wearing them across my whole arm, and they're just not doing anything. I say they're not doing anything, they might be making a slight difference, but I need something for my arms, some proper sleeves, something just to keep me warm. Another thing that you should consider doing, you know, winter rides, I'm riding to work in the morning, rain or no rain, and it's light. You know, I work a typical 9 to 5, so it's still light in the mornings when I'm riding to work. I'm forgetting that by the time I leave work it's going to be dark, so get yourself some sort of fluorescent something or other. You're going to need to be seen. So, is there anything else that I do differently on these winter commutes? Well, yes, there is one or two things actually. At the moment I find myself gravitating towards my 125, and that's not a big bike little bike thing. But what's actually happened, a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, we got caught out in the rain and the bike became absolutely filthy. And ever since then, I've just been taking this bike to work. The big bike, she's sat at home in the garage, lovely and clean, and I just can't bring myself to take a lovely clean bike out to work in the rain whilst I've got an already filthy dirty bike that I could use. And the same thing happened a couple of months back, but the other way around, where the big bike got dirty, we ended up taking her to work whilst leaving the little 125 in the garage, staying lovely and clean. So, do I still think that commuting is worth it, even in the winter? Well, as I said, it can be terribly wet and miserable. It can also be terribly cold. And I don't mind the cold so much, but I would say if the temperature is getting anywhere down towards 0 degrees, I would avoid biking completely, because you're getting into ice territory at that temperature, which is just bad news for bikes. Are there days when I look at the weather, see how bad it is, you know, from a rainy perspective, and decide it's not worth it, I'm just going to take the car? Yes, there are one or two of those days, but for the most part I don't mind if it's raining. I get to ride the bike at the end of the day. So all in all, commuting in the winter, yes, it's probably still worth it. I feel better when I get to work, I feel better when I get home, and that's because I've been using the bike. My glasses do steam up, particularly in the wet weather, which annoys me, particularly because I do use anti-fog, only it doesn't seem to be working. I probably need something better. Other than that, I really just need to remember to wear my bloody fluorescent jacket.